Welcome to the Pickle Barrel Fantasy Football Podcast, August 20th, 2016, Season 2, Episode 11. I'm Andy.
And I'm Frank.
Well, America is owning the Olympics, crushing everybody in the medal count. A Florida State frat boy murders a couple and tries to eat them while high on flakka. Need some of that shit. Zika comes to Miami and is the most viral thing to invade South Florida since cocaine. And in the mainstream media, latest obsession is Ryan Lochte's dumbass. Because, you know, that's news.
Yeah, that is news. He is stupid, but yeah, you're right. Absolutely not news.
Right. I just like, it's all I'm hearing when I listen to like ESPN radio on the way to work, and I'm just like, come on, can we talk about something else? Like, we all know that guy is a complete and utter dipshit.
Yeah.
And all he really did, I guess, at the end of the day was he did a little light vandalism and then gave the guys money and then lied about it. Like, not really an international incident.
He exaggerated the story a
Yeah.
little bit, but yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. But it's not important. We shouldn't fuel the fire.
That's
as
right.
well.
We're not contribute to such ridiculousness. I thought the Florida State frat boy who fucking murdered the couple. That was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I read that. I mean, that was like the fucking Miami thing a couple years ago when the hobo was eating the other guy's face.
So that was a hobo. So you're like, okay, he's probably like mentally insane. Whereas like some random frat boy, like how much fucking flakka did he do?
I don't know. That's basically bath salts, right?
That's what I'm assuming. Yeah, I don't know. I can't keep up with these designer drugs these days.
Oh god.
But a lot going on in the world of fantasy.
Lots. Finally got the preseason games going. We got week 2 going. Tons of awesome shit happening. These have actually been pretty exciting games. I fucking loved watching.
I've enjoyed watching them too. And so we're going to do quarterbacks today, our top 20 QBs.
Yep.
And kind of hard to even get into there without talking about the preseason Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
looking mega sharp for the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah,
looks like a young Cam Newton.
He does. He's like 22 for 27, 4 touchdown passes, 2 rushing, like almost 300 yards passing. It's fucking looking pretty legit. We'll see. We'll wait till the season comes around. But it makes Dez Bryant fans and maybe or just Cowboys fans.
Cowboys in general, you got to be feeling pretty good about having a backup who doesn't suck mega dong.
Exactly. It looks like we got a decent backup behind Romo, so not everything becomes shit if he gets hurt.
That's right. Well, let's get into it. Our top 20 QBs. Now, one thing we should note is that we do this from the standpoint of a 6-point passing touchdown, which does affect the rankings a little bit. Make sure runners a little less valuable, like Cam Newton. Not a huge difference, though, from standard scoring.
And it does push quarterbacks in general up the draft board a little bit as well.
It probably affects the overall rankings more than it affects the QB rankings.
I agree. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Well, number 1, are we the same?
We are the consensus. We got the consensus number 1 and number 2. Aaron Rodgers number 1, which, I mean, he's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's just too fucking perfect.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's got all the tools this year to make sure that he turns around from last year. So last year, I don't think it was just Jordy Nelson, the reason they didn't click. I think it was offensive line issues and, you know,
Eddie Lacy,
not the run game not being where it's supposed to be. I think now you've corrected. Really, all 3 issues are corrected. You've got your deep threat back. The offensive line has been shored up, and you've got a running game which hopefully should look more like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I definitely think you're going to see the regression to the mean. The Packers are going to go back to what they have done over the past 5 years historically.
Right.
I think Rodgers, and we've always talked about this, is he's just kind of too efficient.
Right.
And so you might not get quite the passing yards you're hoping for, but I still think you're good for probably close to 40 touchdowns for him. And he never throws interceptions. So
unfortunately, I think, unfortunately, not for Packers fans, but for Aaron Rodgers fantasy fans, I think the Green Bay Packers defense is going to be about as good as they were last year.
Yeah.
You kind of want them to suck at this point,
fantasy-wise. You do, yeah, fantasy-wise. They might even be slightly improved. They did draft quite a bit on defense, so that was good.
But I think the whole division's gotten better.
Yeah,
I think the whole division's more competitive, and that's what you need, is for Aaron Rodgers to be in competitive games where, he doesn't stop playing in the third quarter. Because in 2014, that was the crazy thing. Like, he didn't play all that many fourth quarters.
That's exactly true. You hope that the games stay close, so he has to stay in the game. Yeah, hopefully that'll be the case.
I think they will. I think they will. And so let's move on. Well, what are your projections? What do you got for him?
I mean, I've got for Rodgers, I think he's going to do somewhere around 4,400 yards, 40 touchdowns, and he'll probably only have like 5 interceptions.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about Aaron Rodgers is the interceptions just are so low that the drives always continue.
Yeah.
And they love using him in the red zone. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they're not afraid. Like, even if they're on the one, you know, they're not just going to give the ball to Eddie Lacy. I mean, they will a lot, but
They will a lot.
they'll do plenty of play action at the goal line,
Yeah.
let him dump it off to Randall Cobb in the slot, or throw it up for Jordy to grab up top.
Yep.
So, I think those are good projections. If anything, I think those are like right in the middle where you kind of expect him to do, because his floor is not that much lower and his ceiling is a little bit higher too. So.
And I would like to say this. I mean, if I went and looked at Fantasy Pros rankings before we got together to do this one, and Aaron Rodgers, they have his ADP all the way at 43. So that means he's going in the 4th round in 10-man leagues, or close to the dead back end of the 3rd round in 12-man.
Yeah.
That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I guess we like quarterbacks a little bit more, like we said.
That's the 5th round.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, you're right.
So yeah, we
right.
do. I mean, I would take Aaron Rodgers in the 3rd for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with 6 points passing touchdowns, in our league too has quarter-point receptions as well, which is big, which starts to add up. 3 points or 3-4 points a game. Those are big differences in standard scoring value. So that's one thing you should look at is how does your league judge quarterbacks, because if they have little differences like our league does compared to the standard scoring, that can make a huge difference over the course of a year as far as how much these guys score.
Most definitely. It's just strange to me how fantasy football has so quickly abandoned the quarterback position.
Well,
I mean, a couple years ago, these guys would all go in the 1st round, no matter what league it was.
And what's crazy is that that was 2012 was the year when the quarterbacks were just like, they had like 4 or 5.
It was like Brady, Rodgers, Breeze.
Fucking Matthew Stafford was going like 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, exactly.
It was insane. Yeah, that and just this year they're like, oh, well, there's so many quarterbacks that do well. Well, here's the thing: is you can't always look at what happened last year and then project it onto this year.
That's true.
I mean, and it's the same thing. Like Matthew Berry on ESPN, he's like, well, running backs this year probably won't be nearly as shitty as they were last year. Well, in the same vein, how do we know that quarterbacks are going to be so equal like they were in the years past? I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to see guys like, your Blake Bortles of the world and your Tyrod Taylors are going to kind of take a step back, whereas the elite quarterbacks will still be elite.
I agree. Yeah. There were too many elite guys that just had off years last year. Mm-hmm. It looked really strange to everybody, and as a result, we're overemphasizing that sort of impact that
sort of equity.
and it's demonstrating in the ADP. I mean, people are way too low on quarterbacks, and we're going to learn why they're quarterbacks this year, I think.
And I think anytime you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, like Andrew Luck, and even to a degree Drew Brees and Tom Brady, what you hope for is just these stellar lotto ticket years. Because you talk about getting lotto tickets for guys later in the round. Well, the ultimate lotto ticket to me is a quarterback who you take 3rd, 4th round, who has a Peyton Manning 2013 year.
Oh, yeah. That's a lotto ticket.
And that's a lotto ticket that wins you your league.
But you are hoping for just like 3 TDs, 250, 300 yards. If they do that for you, they're a lock for a solid 20, 25 points, regardless of league, basically.
Right, exactly.
And that's what you want. I mean, that's really what you're looking for. We didn't see a lot of that last year, which is why everybody's so off put by that.
And this is the last thing I'll say about the reason I think I value quarterbacks more than the talking heads is that at the end of the day, fantasy football is a game where you have to score more points than your rival. And quarterbacks simply score the most points.
They do.
So in a way, like if you just look at it that way, as who's going to score you the most points week in and week out and help you to win those games, and who's going to score more points typically than their competitors who aren't as good, it's usually quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you. So we got Luck at number 2 together as well, and it's the same sort of thing.
Right.
I mean, just a very good quarterback, high-powered quarterback.
Yeah, and Luck is in some ways a little bit more attractive than Rodgers because of the potential for great volume.
Exactly. He's going to be a guy that's probably going to do 5,000-plus yards a few times in his career.
Yeah.
Maybe this year.
I mean, I think so, too. I think he's a pretty good shot for it. He may be the best shot for 5,000 yards.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, and he's got the weapons around him, too, at this point. And I think they've done a good job shoring up that O-line, and I'm excited for just the entire Colts team, really.
Me too. I want to see them be good again.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to have a bounce back year. I mean, how can they not? Last year was so pathetic for the Colts, and it was all pretty much related to either the bad play of Andrew Luck or the injury of Andrew Luck. I mean, he didn't play well while he was playing, and then he got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So they couldn't do shit.
Don't be too scared about it. Andrew Luck is still a very talented quarterback and is going to put up great fantasy numbers in the future.
Yeah. And number 3, I've got Cam Newton. and you got.
I've got Drew Brees.
Yeah.
This is where we start to get a lot of difference in our rankings specifically. But I mean, I like Cam. I've got him at 5. I don't know where you have Drew Brees at 5 too. I think.
I have Drew Brees at 5.
So we've got him switched around. I mean, it's still pretty close. I just think some of these quarterbacks are going to be they're a little bit more high powered in terms of passing than Cam Newton. And I don't think Cam Newton does 10 rushing touchdowns again. I think people are going to defend against that a little bit better. But
I like Cam Newton to perhaps step up his passing yards though. I
That's
think
true.
with the new weapons,
I could see that.
I don't see them regressing. I mean, maybe I just don't see it happening. I think the
I don't
Panthers
see much
are here to
regression.
stay elite.
I don't see much regression.
Right.
You're right.
Like you said, there may be some regression in in the rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. But I think his passing game gets a little sharper, and they try not to utilize him as much in the run. But they're still going to use him there.
They will.
I think his rushing TDs go down from 10 to about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
His rushing yards, you see a dip of about 1 to 200 rushing yard dip. Mm-hmm. So from like 650 to like 500, 450. And then I think you see his passing yards get up to about $4,000.
I've got him at 4,200. That's my guess.
So I think he breaks 4,000 passing yards and hits about the same number of TDs. I think it's 35.
I think that makes sense. I like that too. Yeah, I just think Breeze is going to get closer to 5,000 and maybe have a few more passing touchdowns.
Yeah,
so that's why I got him a little bit higher.
I definitely am a fan of Breeze this year, but my only concern with him is just the age at this point.
And I get that.
And I still like. To me, it's just unbelievable that they traded Jimmy Graham because it was such good chemistry between him and Jimmy Graham.
Very stupid.
Yeah, and Jimmy Graham is such a good route runner as far as tight ends are concerned and so tall and such a mismatch. They don't really have that guy that Drew Brees can pinpoint it to who's a real good mismatch.
That's true. I mean, they've got Fleener now.
They do, yeah.
Cooks he's not a big guy, so there's that. But, I mean, they've also got Mike Thomas. They've got Willie Snead in his second year with them, and Ingram's coming along. I just think they do have a lot of weapons. They might not be that like Jimmy Graham, impactful type player.
And you know who I think they missed too? It's kind of that's really not talked about. I think they missed the Darren Sproles.
They fucked that up.
They did fuck that up. Like if I was the Saints, I would have kept Jimmy Graham and Darren Sproles as long as I could have.
Yeah,
because there's so much chemistry between that little trifecta. And Darren Sproles for years and years was just the perfect little outlet for Drew Brees. He gets in trouble, dumps it off, and lets the little fucking, leprechaun do his thing.
Mm-hmm. Who do you have at number 4?
I have Russell Wilson.
And I've got Eli Manning, which is probably a lot higher than most people anywhere do.
No, I've got Russell Wilson because I'm starting to believe in his passing ability, and I think the rushing touchdowns go way up. He only had 1 last year. And I think his rushing touchdowns go from 1 to 5, or right around there. They're not utilizing him as much in the running game as they used to, which is understandable. But I really like him there at number 4. I would take him in the fifth round.
I've got Wilson back at 7, so a little bit lower, but I do like him. I do like him a lot. Yeah.
Let's get into old Eli though, because that's a.
Yeah, with Eli, it's just he is a great thrower, and he's proven that he is a little bit wild with the interceptions and such. But with Odell Beckham in his 3rd year, and just the little bit I've seen out of the Sterling Shepard kid, his hype's getting really, really, really hyped up. But he looks good. He made a couple really nice catches that I like. So I think that's just going to be a high-powered offense along with having a good defense, or at least they're supposed to have an improved defense. I think they're going to win more of the games, but I think they're going to be in a lot of close competitive games. The Giants play in every single game they play. Like, it's always close, so there's always juicy fantasy points that keep it going. So I just think Eli's going to just have a good season. 35 years old, this is the time when he's going to have the best year of his
Yeah, that's true. I mean, physically, the guy is actually a freak as far as not getting hurt. So the NFL does this thing called the functional movement screen.
And that's, that too.
Yeah, so they do this thing called the functional movement screen, and the perfect score is a 21. So the Giants have done this every year, and the only person ever to get, so this basically predicts if you're likely to get injured. The lower your score, the more likely to get injured. And the only person to ever score a perfect 21 on it was Eli Manning.
Really?
Yeah, he's perfectly flexible apparently.
Really?
So very interesting little nugget there, and he's never had a soft tissue injury. Never. It's only ever had concussions is the reason it's kept him out of games.
Wow. Damn.
So his durability is probably better than any quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I mean we have not seen him get hurt, and I can't even remember the last time he was hurt. So
some concussions a few years back. But I like Eli Manning, too. I've got him in my number 8.
Okay. And so, what are we at? 6, probably? I got Raplesberger.
I got Ben Raplesberger at the exact same spot. And, he has a lot of upside. The guy has tools. He's a big dude. And he's a great passer.
Yes.
I worry about him getting hurt.
Yeah. Getting hurt. And it does suck that Latavius Murray isn't going to be there. And Le'Veon Bell, good news, only 3-game suspension now.
For Le'Veon Bell, yeah, exactly. Great news for Bell owners like yourself who drafted him.
It just makes it a little disappointing for old Raplesberger. So, but I mean, he's still a great quarterback, like you said. I've got him doing probably a little over 4,000 yards and somewhere around 32 touchdowns. He does tend to throw a few interceptions, so he's probably got about 12.
Yeah,
13.
and with him, here's still, like you said, you got so many weapons around him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, no Martavis Bryant, that hurts, but still, there's a great receiving core. I mean, Antonio Brown could pretty much create separation between him and anybody.
That's true.
So, I mean, all he has to do is fucking wait for it and let him score. But, yeah, the only thing with Roethlisberger is his injury potential really, really makes me kind of pump the brakes on him.
We've pretty much seen it every year with him, which is to a degree, it seems like he misses at least a few games every year. Mm-hmm. It sucks, but he is a great quarterback, very, very talented. I think we talked about Wilson.
Yeah.
We talked about Wilson.
Yeah, we talked about Wilson.
I have him at my 7. Who'd you have at 7?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Okay, you've got him a lot higher than I do.
I do. To me, and this is my whole philosophy of this year is I'm not letting early suspensions really knock my rankings all that much. Just because at the end of the day, like I say, fantasy football is about winning that championship.
Yeah.
First 4 games don't fucking matter. So, obviously if Tom Brady was not suspended, I'd have him higher.
Yeah.
A little bit higher, probably 5. But he is. So, and you've got him ranked way lower.
Yeah, I do. I have Tom Brady all the way back at 15.
Yeah. I think that's too low, personally.
Yeah, I guess I can understand, but it's really mainly the games and previous history with him. But I've actually got old Tony Romo at number 8.
Romo who's your number 7?
Russell Wilson. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. No, you're right. I gotta disagree with you. I just think Tom Brady is gonna be, when he returns, is not a lock for a top 5 quarterback per game, but on a per game basis. But I think he's probably, I would say more likely than not, he's a top 5 quarterback in the per game when he's back.
He should be pretty good. He's just getting a little older. Everybody's a little bit older, and it was a good season last year. Really incredible season. I just think it's going to. Yeah, I just think it's going to diminish a little bit, and minus the 25% of the season, it just really takes the top off of his points. But you're right, on a per game basis, I still think Tom Brady is going to be a great fantasy player.
Yeah,
definitely top 10 per game basis.
He's a guy that I'm for sure eyeing. If I could get him in our league anyway in the 7th, I would be super stoked about it. I would take him in the 7th and grab maybe pair him up with a Blake Bortles or something like that, Jameis Winston even. Matt Stafford, Jesus. I mean, that'd be
nice.
Quarterback 1 potential right there. Beyond quarterback 1. I mean, top 3, 4 quarterback status. But, all right, let's move on to number 8.
Yeah, like I said, I have Tony Romo. He's going way later.
I have Eli Manning, and I've actually got Romo at 9. So
okay, so
let's talk about old Tony Romo.
Tony Romo, yeah. I mean, great O-line. We saw him play last night. Only played two drives, but
looked sharp
good.
enough.
Yeah, look
they're not gonna. Yeah, he looked good. He was on point. And the Dak Prescott noise. That's just noise right now.
Yeah,
there's no way
Romo's gonna start.
Romo's gonna start. I mean, it doesn't matter how good Dak Prescott ends up looking. Here's the bottom line. I mean, maybe the Cowboys think about trading Romo next year if they really believe in Prescott that much. But any team, other than probably the quarterbacks we just mentioned, would love to have Tony Romo.
Yeah, exactly.
As their starting quarterback.
Plenty of people got him. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that. But I mean, it does. Anybody else on the Dallas Cowboys, it does help with the confidence, and even with being a Tony Romo owner, you can pick up Dak off the waiver wires.
In our last live draft that we had, I took Tony Romo in the 10th round, and to me, it's you'd have to go out in waivers to get him. But the fact is that with quarterbacks, with backup quarterbacks, it's not like people will be chomping at the bit to get him.
Oh no, they're going to sit on waivers.
Exactly. So, like, if you're a Tony Romo owner, I would be more comfortable with having Dak Prescott there, because if I were you and Tony Romo gets hurt, just pick him up.
Yeah.
And maybe he starts doing awesome like he's doing in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing I do want to mention with Dak Prescott is, gotta remember he's facing number 2 defenses, number 3 defenses.
For the most part, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So the kid looks good though, and the kid did great in the SEC as all 4 years that he was there. So
he did, tough player, but it gives you hope for the Cowboys. But yeah, with Romo, I think he's just going to be efficient. It'll be a lot like his 2014 year. You're not going to probably see a whole lot over 4,000. He probably won't break 4,000 yards, but he'll probably still do 30-plus TDs and, around 10 interceptions or so. So I think they're going to run the ball. We saw that also in the games. They've got Morris, McFadden, and Elliott. They're going to run the fuck out of the ball. They have a great running back core.
They do, yeah.
And a great O-line. So.
The Dallas preseason games have probably been one of the most entertaining to watch, and some of the most fantasy relevant to watch.
Yeah.
Because to me, it has definitely hurt Zeke's value. It's increased
big time.
It's increased Dez Bryant's value though.
Yeah.
So I mean, I at this point, like, Dez Bryant has moved up past some of the running backs. And like I said before, that I'd rather have Dez than Zeke, but it was like a 1-2 thing.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm like, no, I'd definitely rather have Dez.
Yeah,
I'd definitely rather have Dez. And to me, Zeke has some real serious potential to get his, bell cow status challenged hardcore by the veterans that are there.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a rookie. Why destroy him this first year?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but enough about everybody else. We're talking about quarterbacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 10.
Well, you had Romo at 9. I had Derek Carr at 9.
Oh, okay.
I think I've got him
Derek
a little
Carr.
bit.
Yeah, I've got way lower actually. I've got
Okay.
Derek Carr at 17.
Okay. Who do you have at 10? I've got Stafford.
I've got Bortles. I've got Stafford at number 12.
Okay, I've got Bortles at 12. So we're very close on some of these. I mean, we're off with Carr, but on the other ones we're pretty.
Well, let's talk about old Derek Carr.
Okay.
I mean, he's got a very good wide receiver core. For sure.
Yeah.
And other good position players around him that are far better than what the Oakland Raiders usually showcase.
He had like 32 touchdowns and almost 4,000 yards last year.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And those, Amari Cooper's coming on strong. Crabtree still looks good. I think he's going to improve. I think he's going to, be above 4,000 yards and probably do closer to like 35 touchdowns or something like that. Maybe.
I could see it happening. I guess I'm just not totally bought into the Raiders. I really love Amari Cooper, obviously. I drafted him, obviously, number 14 overall, something like that, in our last draft. But I don't know. I just don't quite yet believe in the talent of Derek Carr. Steve-O's all in on him, too.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He's only played 2 seasons, but he hasn't looked too bad. And, when I went back and looked at the numbers earlier today, I was kind of surprised to see that he had that many passing yards. So
yeah.
I like the guy, the team as a whole. I love the defense, looks epic. And their O-line's real good, too. So I think it's just going to be a good team to have fantasy players on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm especially high on Amari Cooper, and Latavius Murray has also been going up in my rankings. Mm-hmm. Kind of a similar team and a similar quarterback is Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that I had at 15, and then after just watching some of the preseason, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I bumped him. I had him a lot lower, too. I bumped him up to 12. And, when we saw him and Allen Robinson playing together last week,
the whole offense
they looked really good. Yeah, the running backs looked good. Yeah, they're going to be a good team. And we'll see. I mean, they're already having a little bit of trouble on their defense with some of the players getting injured and stuff. So
if anything, that kind of increases their value.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So I've started to become a little bit more high on all of the Jaguars player. I was already really high on Julius Thomas, and now I just the eye test for me was like, holy shit, this looks just extremely crisp. And maybe they're just maybe it was just preseason and the defense they were playing was
could have been
just not very locked in. But I was just like, this just looks too good to just be a fluke. And he had incredible numbers last year.
He did. He had a lot of numbers. This next year for Bortles, I think he's going to do about 4,000 yards and probably around 30 TDs again, which is close to what he did last year now.
Yeah.
I've got him pretty close to basically replicating last year. Hopefully he does a few less interceptions. If he does that, he'll be
for sure.
nice.
I mean, and that's the big concern with Bortles was like, I was just looking at his numbers last year, being like, well, the interceptions kind of match, the volume.
Yeah.
Does that mean he's that good of a quarterback? But who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe he is, and they obviously trust him there.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
So let's talk about old Carson Palmer, because I've got him there at 11.
Okay, I've got Carson at 14, a little bit lower.
This is a guy that I had at 8 only a few days ago. I've lowered him just because of the ascendance of a few other quarterbacks, Blake Bortles, Eli Manning, that I put in front of him.
He was one of those guys I've been pushing back as a result of it too. Some of that has to do with just their team in general. John Brown's got concussed like 2 weeks ago and still hasn't practiced again.
Right.
That's not cool. And Larry Fitzgerald didn't play last night because of a minor knee injury, they say.
Right.
So, you see a little bit of disturbances. And my biggest problem I've always had with Carson Palmer is he is a bit of an injury-prone player.
Yeah.
I mean, quarterbacks
and
are,
he's getting older.
in general, and he's getting older.
Been in the league for over 12 years now.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a cool, great offense with a lot of stars that look real good. But Carson Palmer could easily get hurt. And for me, I've kind of got that built in now, I guess. I've got him doing less than 4,000 yards, probably more like 25 TDs and probably somewhere around 15 interceptions.
I think he does better than that, but the reason I think he does better is because there's still a lot of talent around him. And I'm not too worried about John Brown's concussions. I mean, that's pretty par for the course. Larry Fitz, though, I do think is going to take a step backwards this year, a big step backwards. But he's still got Malcolm Floyd, he's still got David Johnson, and just an awesome running back core in general. The O-line's good, the defense is good, so the players around him, to me, justify close to a top 10 performance.
Yeah, I'm just worried about that injury bug. I guess kind of just hedging my bets off that. Really is what I'm kind of saying. But yeah, no, I mean I understand. He is a good quarterback. Just a matter of staying on that field.
Yeah. Another guy who I've been climbing in my rankings at number 12, at least I've got number 12, is Matt Stafford.
Okay, I've got Stafford at 10. I think I said that earlier.
Yeah,
I've let him climb mine a little bit over the last 2 weeks, definitely.
Yeah, and Matt Stafford. Here's the thing: at the end of last year, Matt Stafford looked really, really good. His beginning of the year play was pretty shitty, but I think when you match what he's done historically with the way he looked at the end of last year, because I've always said be careful about late seasonism.
Yeah.
But in this case, it matches a larger pool of data that suggests that Matthew Stafford will easily or could easily break into the top 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Or certainly top 10.
Well, the great thing about Stafford, he's always been a high volume passer. Yeah. Early in his career, breaking 5,000-yard mark a couple times, I believe. And granted, Calvin Johnson has left, but Calvin Johnson didn't look that great last year.
No.
And the problem with the team last year was they were in between coaching staffs, essentially.
In a way, losing Calvin Johnson, to me, kind of frees up Matt Stafford to look around the field.
Yeah.
And really look around the field and pass it. Instead of feeling like you need to pass it to the big man, now he can go through his progressions without having that subconscious weight. Yeah, maybe that's bullshit. That could be total bullshit, but
no, I mean, I get. I mean, he always was targeting Calvin.
Yeah.
Now he had Golden Tate. He's had him for a couple years, but he's got Marvin Jones. Granted, Marvin Jones isn't Calvin Johnson, but he's got Marvin Jones is probably a better receiver than Calvin Johnson was last year. Right now,
yeah.
So it probably will actually be a little bit better. It won't be like the glory days a couple years ago, but. It'll be a good bit better. Plus the new system, one he's already been in for half a season now. I think it'll be much more stable.
Yeah. And like you said, I think what makes him so attractive is the volume of passes that I don't have much faith in the running back core in Detroit.
Oh, I hate him.
I don't have much faith, just in general, that they're going to be super competitive on the defensive side. I mean, they're a decent defense, but I mean, I don't know. Like with the division they're in, it's pretty fucking competitive.
It is.
And so I expect them to be in competitive games where Stafford is in a position to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I see the exact same scenario playing out. Just close games, Stafford winging the fuck out of the ball. Tate and Marvin Jones are probably going to have great seasons. And, that's basically what I see. I see Stafford doing, like I said, I have him at my 10. I see him doing somewhere around 4,500 plus yards. Probably 30 TDs and another 14.
Can't forget that he was one of those guys in 2011 that broke 5,000 yards.
He did. He's done it twice. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So
I mean, he was right there with Breeze the year Breeze broke the record.
Right. Exactly. All right, my number 13 guy is old Jameis Winston, Crab Legs Winston.
And I've got a guy that you don't have on your list,
No.
actually, Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I just don't believe in Cutler.
I can get that. I can get that. He did too, though. Also, he looked pretty good at the end of last year too, even without Alshon Jeffries.
He's never. I don't know. There's been a few years where I think he grazed the top 10. He's never been a top 5 guy.
He hasn't.
I just don't have faith in his ability.
I gotcha. I understand, but I mean, I think Jeffrey is going to have a great year, and I also think Kevin White's going to have a pretty good year as well. So I think Jay Cutler's got some great weapons, young weapons to pass to, and I think they're going to have a productive season. And like you said about the NFC North, I think it's going to be a competitive division. So there's going to be a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, there are. I just don't think as far as quarterbacks, he's probably close to my top 20, but even in a 2-quarterback league, I wouldn't be looking for him.
I think Jay Cutler gets probably less touchdowns than most of these quarterbacks we've talked about, like probably somewhere in the mid-20s. But I think he's going to do 4,000 yards, and I don't even know that he's ever done that before. But
yeah,
I think he's going to have a good passing year.
All right, let's talk about my boy though, James Crablegs Winston. What do you got, old James?
Okay, where'd you have him?
12.
You have him at 12?
Yeah.
Okay, I have him at 16.
Yeah.
I like Winston. He's definitely going to improve. I think he's going to get more efficient. I don't think you'll see a ton more yardage. I think he's right around a 4,000 yard guy still, but probably less interceptions and maybe a few more TDs.
See, the reason I'm so high on Winston right now is because I don't have a lot of faith in the Bucs defense.
Okay.
I mean, the Bucs don't have a very good defense, and he's got great weapons around him. Mike Evans, Dougie Martin. I think that, and he just is. The jump from rookie year for him to sophomore year. It's his first full off season. He's not playing baseball. I don't know. I have this it's probably blind faith that comes out of nowhere. I'm just like,
this is what fantasy football is.
Yeah, this is about projecting, and I'm his upside to me is Jameis Winston could be one of the next great quarterbacks.
I could definitely see that. He's just still young. But I love Mike Evans, and Dougie's great. Charles Sims is great.
He is a young guy. He's a young quarterback, and
he did do 4,000 his first year, like we've said before.
Yeah, and I've seen just his body frame compared to last year, where he had a little pooch belly, this and that. He does not look like that right now. He's got definition.
Six pack.
He's got a 6-pack. Because he was saying before, is like, man, I've always wanted a 6-pack. I've always seen my boys. And they running backs, wide receivers, they all got 6-pack, but I've never had that. I think now he's done it. That's probably the main motivation for him. But he just looks way thinner and cut and lean and like I just have to imagine he's going to be more mobile in the pocket.
Yeah, it should help. He had a lot of rushing touchdowns last year
too. He had 6 last year. So to me, the upside is why I drafted Jameis Winston in the other league.
Yeah,
because I'm going to stash him for a bit, see if he can become. Jesus Winston, like I think he can be.
We'll see. I'd say the potential is definitely there. Will it happen this year? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe this is 2 years down the road.
Could be,
but we shall see.
Yeah, definitely the right direction.
Yep.
So what are you on? Were you on
14 now?
Okay, I had Carson Palmer, and we've talked about Tom Brady. I have him at 15, but who do you have at 14?
At 14, I have Tyrod Taylor.
I have Tyrod back at 18.
Yeah.
And I like Tyrod.
A lot of talking heads like Tyrod. He looked good last year. I think the majority of weeks he was in the top 10 of quarterbacks just with his play. I mean, another runner, who had some points on the ground.
Got injured as a result of it, which is kind of the downside.
Yeah, it was just one of the downside. But he's got old Sammy Watkins.
He does.
And him and Sammy Watkins have really sparked some chemistry there in Buffalo that it's enticing to me. I just wonder if the innate talent is there.
Yeah, you're not going to see it's a run-first offense. I mean, he did about 3,000 yards last year. You're not going to see a ton more than that. Sammy Watkins will help, and I think he will be like the fucking guaranteed go-to guy and get almost all of the receiving yards. But it's still going to be, kind of like slim pickings in terms of quarterbacks. But there is the rushing side of it. So I think Tyrod Taylor, I like him. He's a great play. But I want another guy ahead of him that I'm probably starting in most weeks. But Tyrod, you can exploit the great matchups with.
So to me, kind of like my 8 through 14 quarterbacks, I'm looking to get 2 of them. But if I got a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Cam Newton, I'm not looking at taking a second quarterback until, I'm fine with taking Kirk Cousins or
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers or Fitzmagic as my backup.
Exactly.
But these guys that we've been talking about, from like Tony Romo up to Tyrod Taylor, I'm looking for two of them to play that matchup game and try to wrench out some value from those guys.
Play the QB carousel.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think Tyrod's right at the end of that. He's gonna. I mean, he had great games where he was scoring 30+ points, and that's fucking awesome from a quarterback.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So if he's playing the fucking Miami Dolphins, maybe Tyrod Taylor, you throw him in there.
Yeah. It's just the running, and he did get hurt last year too, so you gotta just take that into consideration. But
all right, the final quarterback side, because we're gonna go through 15 through 20 here pretty quick, but I want to line out who we're gonna talk about. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, I think are the guys that both of us have left.
Right towards the end. I actually have Matt Ryan quite a bit higher. I haven't we skipped past him, but I have him all the way up at 11. I think he's gonna get back to where he was a couple years ago.
Sir, I have to assume, I've got him at 15 right now. It's probably too low. I have to assume he's going to have a better year.
Yeah.
He's going to have a better year.
Last year was terrible.
He had 21 passing touchdowns last year. That was his lowest total since his rookie year.
And he actually looked pretty good in the first half of the season. It was the fact that the second half was so fucking terrible.
All of them were pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire Falcons is what I mean by that.
They've got a few more receivers. The running back, Freeman's in his third year, but second true year as the big main guy. And Tevin Coleman looks good behind him.
And you know who they got too? Alex Mack, the best center in fucking football.
True. O-line improved.
I think that the entire Falcons team, other than maybe Julio, just because the yards were crazy, but I still love Julio because I think his touchdowns get a little higher. I don't understand why his touchdowns been so low.
He's got to do double digits finally.
Yeah, so I think Julio Jones' value remains the same. Everybody else on the team, minus Devontae Freeman, I think values goes up.
Yeah.
I think Devontae Freeman kind of regresses back to the mean, but the Atlanta Falcons offense in general, I think, is going to be a higher output team, and I think that means that Matt Ryan will be a much better, higher output player.
He'll go back to what he was doing 2 years ago. I think
I could see 3,800 yards with 32, 35 touchdowns.
Oh, I mean, dude, Ryan, even last year, Matt Ryan did like 4,600 yards. I mean,
so his yards are there.
Because of Julio,
Yeah.
I think he does 4,000 plus. It's just a matter of keeping. He had a lot of fumbles last year, keeping those turnovers down. That's what really ate into it, and then just not getting TDs in the second half of the season sucked ass. So.
Yeah, it did. So, are we biting on Phillip Rivers?
I like Rivers,
or is he old man River now?
He's gonna have maybe some tougher weeks, especially in that division with playing Denver and Kansas City and Oakland, all pretty stout defenses. He's gonna have some rough games, but I still love Rivers. He's I like classy
Rivers.
Veteran.
Rivers is one of those guys that if you believe in him enough, have him on the quarterback carousel as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I have him at 17.
Yeah, I've got him at 16. So both right around the same area. Another West Coast man, Derek Carr. We've already talked about him. I've got him at 17. But Andy Dalton, a very interesting guy. The Red Rocket.
Yep. They lost some. They lost a few stars in Sanu and Marvin Jones, so that should affect him a little bit. But it looks like they drafted pretty well.
Yeah.
And Eifert's still out, so that kind of sucks. But
yeah, I mean, as far as AJ Green's value, he's going to be the number one target, and then probably for AJ Green, that's a good thing. But for Andy Dalton, probably not as good. The thing about Andy Dalton is though, he has streaks of brilliance, and once you see him putting up 2 good games, I would go ahead and snag him up. And just let's see how far we can ride this Red Rocket.
Yeah. He's still going to have miserable games. I remember last year when they played the Texans in the middle of the season, and it was fucking terrible. Yeah. All anybody could do was kick field goals, and they lost to the fucking Texans.
And then there was the epic 2014 Bengals-Browns game
which
Andy Dalton, my brother AJ, played Andy Dalton, and was like, I really got a good feeling about him. Andy Dalton left the game in the end of the first half with -6 points.
It was amazing.
2 pick sixes, had 2 completions for 20 yards. The worst game ever.
Yeah, pretty much the worst time you could ever play a quarterback.
He was like, well, my brother called me. It was it's Thursday night. He was like, well, I've lost. I've already accepted it. I was like, yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, your quarterback projection right now is at -27.
It's how would you like to start this week of fantasy football? Down 6 points
with no
quarterback. Well, yeah, you've lost.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Dalton. He's going to have good games and bad games, but It's just the bad ones can be hilariously.
The bad ones
horrible.
can be. Now our final man, we're going to talk about old Kirk. Fuck you, Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, okay, yeah, I've got him at 20. He's my last guy.
I got him at 19. Fitzmagic is my last guy, but I was toying between the two. Like, who do I put at 19?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is a guy that a lot of people fucking love because I think because of late seasonism.
Yeah. How you like that?
Yeah. I mean, he did great last year. He was, I think, a top 5 quarterback.
He was, and he was fucking great in the playoffs.
He was. But I don't see that continuing. I think he's a middling talent. I see him as Nick Foles, number 2. But his draft value, what is his ADP? It's got to be like 130.
His ADP is 123.
Yeah.
He's the 14th overall quarterback.
So, yeah, I mean, you can get him late as fuck. So
yeah,
if
definitely.
you believe in him, which I don't, but if you do, yeah.
Throw him on the carousel.
Yeah. See
what you get out of him. But yeah, you're not gonna. This is not the guy you're gonna fucking depend on unless you're some delusional Washington Redskins
fan. Yeah, exactly. I don't see old Kirky, Captain Kirk, leading his team quite like he did last year. But maybe who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't a Nick Foles type guy, but they just remind me so much of each other.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't have faith in the Redskins, and I don't have faith in Kirk Cousins. He's looked decent in the preseason, but he's going to start throwing those interceptions and start looking like a fool.
Yeah.
And he's got some decent receivers, but some of them are a little older, and Jordan Reed's injury prone. Matt Jones already fucked up his shoulder. He's going to probably miss a game or two. Yeah, I just, questionable O-line. I don't like it.
Yeah. Should have kept RG3.
He's looking good.
He looked good in that. And he looked good in that. Like I haven't seen RG3 play like that since like 2012.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course he didn't make this list.
No, RG3 did not. He probably has moved up to QB 25 for me now.
Yeah, probably. I'd put him about there. Yeah. Maybe 23.
Who knows? I mean, if he keeps on playing like this in the preseason, and he gets Josh Gordon back, and they start having that, dick touch fucking Baylor boner.
Yeah.
Maybe
he'll be fucking worth it. He's got Terrell Pryor, who looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much the list.
Top 20 guys. Again, take a look at your scoring settings in your league and see if there's anything kind of off about quarterbacks. Like maybe they have like I said, 6 points passing touchdowns. Maybe they have like a ridiculously high pick 6 penalty, which will hurt your guys like Eli or something like that. Just look at it and then kind of adjust your rankings appropriately because if it's just standard, then I would buy into the take a quarterback late. But if it's not standard and there's some bonuses associated with the quarterback like our league does, then start looking at them a little higher because that's how you really win your league. One of the biggest ways is understanding the scoring better than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's PPR and these other sort of leagues, so your quarterbacks are just going to be slightly more favored typically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
Yep. Old quarterback. One of my favorite positions. Make sure you're not having the captain of your team and your quarterback being run by like a Fitzmagic type guy. But that is all we got for today, guys. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and just subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah, and I think what's the next one we're going to do? Probably the NFC North. We're going to get back to the divisional breakdowns and finish that up.
Finish that breakup, yep. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andy.
I'm Frank.
Peace.